always fun. Okay, so I'm super excited because I feel like I helped herd these cats together because of what I saw they did at KubeCon in the platform engineering track, and it was so wonderful, so wonderful. So we're gonna we can start bringing folks in, and. Oh, William, hey, thanks for joining us from the Netherlands. Abby, thanks for joining us currently from England. Areti, Charity. Charity, where are you? Are you based in the San Francisco Bay Area?
San Francisco.
Perfect. Yeah, I flew into Boston from there. Cortney joining us from Spain. And Areti, I don't know how long you've been with us. Danielle has been doing all these great wardrobe changes. And I'm like, I don't have as many wardrobe changes, but I have a shirt I just happen to be wearing. And this is for you. Today's my Greek names day. So Areti can translate this for everybody later. Anyway, I just wanted to give that a shout out. It's so great to see everybody. And the only other thing, we have Abby coming up later also for another talk. So might be some questions that we end up deferring to that talk, but I love every single member of this panel. I have been following Charity's blog for years. It's sort of my guilty pleasure when I really want to learn something and I just want to absorb. So I read your blog a lot. I love it. So if you don't follow Charity, it's an excellent blog. Cortney and I have been in this Kubernetes community together for a really long time. And I love working with Cortney and doing all the DevRel and community stuff that we do. So I'm really, really looking forward to this one. And we might even let you run over a little bit of time because if it's anything like the last panel, so many questions. So community, here we go. This is your chance to ask end users and to ask some people that are actually in there building this stuff a lot of questions. So don't be shy in the chat and we will get to as many of your questions as you can towards the end.
All right, we're ducking out. Leave it to all of you.
Cool. Great. Hi everyone, and everyone who's joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. That was a great intro from Lisa. She's amazing, and this has been a fantastic event already today. So we're so excited to have you here. I'm joined, as you can see, by some really, really incredible panelists who are going to be talking about the essential keys for navigating the path to platform engineering excellence, which we've heard a lot today about IDPs, how to build them, real world use cases for them, what you should consider when you're using them. But there's so much more to platform engineering. It's not just an IDP, and it's not what we're going to be talking about, particularly in this talk today. We're going to be talking about loads of other things. Platform as a service. Is it a service? Does it have to be? Are we always servicing people? There's so many other things to be talking about. And so that's what we're going to focus on in this chat. So before we get started, let's start with some intros. I mean, most of you are very well known, but just in case we've got some new people to the space, why don't you kick us off? William, tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm William. I'm based in the Netherlands. I'm a lead architect consultant at SUSE. I do help our SUSE customers to build platforms leveraging Rancher and all our cloud native projects. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell, I suppose.
Cool. Abby?
Hey everyone, I'm Abby Bangser. I'm serially involved in internal team improvements, being a platform engineer, test engineer, all sorts of different roles. And currently I'm a principal engineer at Syntasso, where we're building Cradix to help people build platforms. It's a framework for building platforms. And I'm also co-lead of the platforms working group in the CNCF and involved in team topologies advocate as well. It's sort of that socio-technical side of platforms is what I love.
And she still finds time to be here with us today. It's pretty amazing. Areti, go for it.
Hi, I'm Areti. I'm based in Germany. I'm working for SAP in our internal platform. I'm the product owner for the CI/CD setup of the platform. And I've been in internal teams also for a long, long, long time.
And tell us, how many people do you service, Areti?
30,000 developers, 40,000.
Impressive.
Ask me anything.
There it is. If you are thinking about not staying tuned in, there's your reason to stay here with us for a little while. Charity.
Hi, I'm a co-founder and CTO of Honeycomb.io, and we do observability.
And they do it very well. And I'm Cortney. I work as a developer advocate for Kubeshop, where I spend a lot of time talking to platform engineers about all the different tools that we're trying to help them sort out all of their Kubernetes adoption issues with. So that's where my main interest in this space comes into play. Let's get started with some questions. So we've heard tons about IDPs, but we haven't heard that much about platform as a service or platform in general. Does everybody even need a platform? How do you decide if you're going to use a platform? And if you do need a platform, what should you be considering before you decide to buy or build? Abby, why don't you kick us off?
Just let's start off with a really simple, question. That's what you're saying. So I think the question of does everyone need a platform? What you're asking is, what tools do people need to deliver business value? And I think everybody needs something to get a piece of software out delivering value for their business, for their side project, for whatever they're doing. And so we're all using tools. The question is how much can we depend on kind of commodity tools in the marketplace that we can buy, like if we're using a cloud provider, if we're using an amazing platform as a service, tools of Fly.io, Vercel, et cetera. And how much do we need to build in kind of custom platform capabilities associated with our organization, which is typically something that starts to hit us as we enter into more compliance heavy organizations and kind of teams and larger organizations that need kind of structure across many different development teams. So when you're asking about do people need a platform, what is a platform? A platform is something that can help you accelerate the delivery of value through software, and we are all using them. The question is, are we doing that through customized for our business platforms or platforms that we're able to take from the market? And I think, so yes, everyone's using platforms. It's just what type.
What type? William, you might be a good person to continue on with that because you do talk to a lot of clients. You help them build platforms and help them figure out what considerations they need to keep in mind. So tell us a little bit about what you're seeing out there in the wild in terms of whether people are using platforms and how they're using them.
Yes. So are people using platforms? Yes. Did they start yesterday or last week? No, they started years ago, right? I mean, we are formalizing the concept of a platform. Recently, we're formalizing it. We were using them. The moment that you, as Abby says, the moment that you need to push out a piece of software or a service, you need a series of things that are delivered by the infrastructure folks, the IT folks, the ops folks. Now we are just packaging this, all of this into platform engineering and saying, this is how we develop, this is how we build. What am I seeing specifically is a development of capabilities that start from the developer rather than from the, let's say, the left, right? Rather than from the platform engineers. So the most successful platforms I see are built from a developer point of view, from a developer need, working backwards toward the platform engineers. And yeah, so this is what I see.
And Areti, when we were getting ready for this panel, you had this incredible phrase that you said that kind of leads into what William was talking about. We don't start from scratch; we start from legacy. Really, I think it's really insightful. But talk to me a little bit about your experience not starting from scratch and having to start from legacy. Oh, you're muted.
Of course I am. It goes back to what William said, that what is the starting point is, and to what Abby said as well, that teams already have something. And there comes a time that what they have is so diverse that they have, someone comes to the point that we have to bring this together. And that's why it always starts with legacy. You start with what people have, and maybe one team has something very, very good that evolves to become the platform for everybody. But then you need to adapt the other teams to say, okay, does that fit with what you already have, and how much does it fit? So it's both to their points. You already have something, and there's this need in the development teams. That's why they have built it. And there comes a time that you need somehow to standardize, if you like, but also to make it in an extensible way so that you're not locked in into this thing. And then it depends, I guess, also on the size of the company. Do you build it in yourself? Do you have enough input from different teams to build it yourself, and enough resources, people, and time and money? Because everything counts. Or is it not something, a core capability, and you just look what's out there and you buy or you ask for consultants? But I really think it depends on, if a team you have has something good, then maybe you want to offer it further, and then this evolves to become the platform for the entire organization. So everybody starts with something, and then and usually it's also a bad idea to throw everything out that everybody has done. I think it's to bring everything together and learn from it. I think it builds a better platform and understanding.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And looking at it from a service perspective, but Charity, you're running a company. You run loads of people and teams, and you try to help them figure out the cultural drivers and how to get them to create better dev experience. Talk to us a little bit about how important that is.
I mean, to some extent, there's nothing new under the sun, right? Everything we're saying right now, we could have said a decade ago. I feel like this is just really the latest generation of DevOps, in a sense, except for one thing.
Oh,
I think
DevOps isn't dead.
I think that one of the most important things we've done over the past 5 to 8 years is we've gone from a world where half of the engineers were supposed to build the code and the other half were supposed to understand the code, to the understanding that every engineer writes code and every engineer owns the code that they write. Our systems are becoming so complex, you can't expect someone to develop code unless they're being exposed to the outputs of it. And you can't expect someone to operate it unless they're also developing it. And so the key novelty that I think that platform engineering brings is that instead of having all of your teams where you're responsible externally and customers are your customers, this is the first time where customers have been internal. Developers are your customers, and developers are owning their own code, and you're supporting them. I think bringing that sort of product mentality to infrastructure teams is something that's been a long time coming.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. William, you want to continue with that? I see you giving thumbs up over there.
Oh no, I agree 100%, 1000% on everything. Our customers now are the developers, and what we build is we build pieces of the platform based on their immediate or future needs to deliver to ship their software. That's it. They own the software, they run the software. That's why I don't think that DevOps is dead. DevOps is maybe just shifted a bit. They don't get to build the platform to develop their services. Platform engineers build the platform and are in constant communication with that real feedback loop to understand what is needed next in the platform as a capability, so that they can ship that software. Now,
Yeah, I
so
heard
thumbs
the
up.
suck in of
Absolutely
air
agree.
on the DevOps generation comment, but I think it is true, and I think it's both a generation, but I think it's also talking about it at scale. I think what DevOps says is that you should have autonomy to do what you need to do to make value for your customers, right? You should have the autonomy to create the infrastructure you need, the tools that you need, deliver the value that you need. The problem with autonomy is that comes with responsibility, and responsibility today and responsibility for the long run of all the things that you build. And what we're realizing is teams are getting crushed under that responsibility, because we're seeing many, many teams trying to create secure databases and secure Kubernetes cluster setups, and all in the same organization, when there are experts who truly know how to operate that at scale and correctly. And so when I say it's a generation, but it's actually just in a scaling of DevOps, there will still be things that teams need to build for themselves, because the internal platform is looking at trying to optimize and create things that are going to be common across the organization, but unique to their organization. So trying to build on top of commodities in the industry, so cloud providers and things like that, but they're then trying to layer in the stuff that's important to their business, but common across a large part of their business. There's still going to be bits that are just for your team, and you're still going to need to have that autonomy and that drive to build the things you need to be successful. So, yeah, I think I look at this as a scaling of it, of defining what full stack really means and realizing that there are places where we can create those internal product teams.
It's about finding the right level of abstraction, right? And I feel like there's always this push and this pull, this contraction and expansion. And like, I think that for a long time, there was a contraction and then there was an expansion. And now software engineers are going, you can't expect us to be experts in everything. We can't be security experts and ops experts and it's like, no, you're absolutely right. It's one thing to give all software engineers the keys to the kingdom, which sounds good, but now you're actually asking them to understand so much surface area. And I think that platform engineering is really about trying to constrain that surface area so that it's tractable for the average engineer.
And this is where these team topologies reduce the cognitive load of developers and so on. And this is where platform engineering eventually is supposed to help, so that you don't need to know everything to operate, to build and run your software. There are some things that can be abstracted. And the scale, when you start doing it, so when is the time that you say, okay, we have this very good team and they're doing it very well and so on, but does the next team need to go through all the pain of what they have learned and do it again and again and again? I think that's when it starts to say, now we start needing we need to somehow make it available for everybody. And the platform can be documentation. Here's how you do it. Here, you don't need to know about it. This is how you do it. And somebody needs to maintain that documentation that comes to keep it up to date. And that's already a platform, but it doesn't need to be the platform, but you have somewhere where you can base your future development. And how you extend it then it starts getting interesting, because it's what Abby said. Every team needs their own bit stuff, and they somehow need to be able to be plugged into what you do and not be completely outlandish or it says, no, you're out.
Absolutely. And so thinking about that, and when people decide, okay, now we're going to start scaling this, we need to figure out how to service all of these people, and they start working on actually building their platform. This poses the big question: if you build it, will they come? Will they come and actually use your platform? Who wants to take that one first? Oh, I see William jumping for it.
Yeah, I have a strong opinion on this one. Abby knows that. I think not. I think if you build it, they come. I think it's the wrong approach, because I'm building a product, not thinking of the need of the product, not thinking of the demand. So I should first survey the needs of the users of this product, which again we all agree are the developers. So they need feature A. I'm building capability A into platform X, which satisfies this need, and so on, and I move forward. So what we are talking about adoption, right? So why, as an engineer, why should I adopt a platform and change my modus operandi? That will slow me down. Will cause me to go into the mythical rabbit hole and learning something new, when my value is shipping that piece of code or shipping that service. So if you want to reduce that cognitive load, if you want to reduce the friction and increase adoption, then you develop what they need. So you simply ask them, this is what you need, this is what I built for you, now you can move faster, and you increase the build. Go on, Charity.
I mean, that's where it starts. But this is what I mean when I say bringing like a product perspective to infrastructures, which these are very new muscles for a lot of us. Like, when as an infrastructure engineer, I'm just like, oh, well, the thing needs to be built, I will build it. And that's not how you build products. And I think we have a lot to learn from our folks on the front end side, where, you find something that really serves a need, then you find champions, you find teams, and you sit with them and you make sure that you're solving their need before you move on. You try to plant and sprout the people to be evangelists for you throughout the organization, and people who will pick it up, because you can't do it all your own, and you can't force people to use your shit.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a huge part of the adoption process. Areti, tell us a little bit about your experience.
I'm jumping in because I'm not a developer. And I have to talk to people that are developers and deep down in operations, and they see something, some user does something, and then they say, oh, they have this problem, I will fix it for them. And you go, no, 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 no. Wait, why would, if you fix it for them, you might break them for 20 others. It is quite a balancing act to hold back and say, I know that you are an expert in this topic. I am fully aware that there are many people building platforms that they know the good. But when you try to roll it out as a product, then you need to know who you're serving, why you're serving them and not the others. So, but this is a very interesting point, how you hold people from jumping into doing the next thing that is obvious. That is a new muscle that everybody's training, at least in our organization. Everybody's like, maybe we wait. But it's interesting that others are facing this lovely
The same
situation.
conundrum. No, and Abby, I think you're a great person to give us some feedback on this as well, because you're on both ends of the spectrum. You have experience actually being part of a team, but also building a product that's meant for platforms. So give us some insights from your end.
Yeah, I've spent so many years quoting Charity. It's kind of fun to quote her in front of her. But the thing I think that's important here is all these points are right? Like we have to treat it like a product. We have to learn these muscles. But the biggest thing I found is this point that you made years ago, Charity, about if you're not going to be, and I can't remember what the percentage better, it was either 10 times or 100 times better, then why would they change? Because there is a cost to changing, right? So you can't just be better. You have to be so much better that someone is worth making the change for. And I think that's something we sometimes forget. And I'd like to tag on to that and say, not only do you have to be better, you have to prove that you're not going to come at them with changes again forever and ever. So however you're changing, whatever you're changing them to, it needs to be something they trust is going to be evolutionary from that point forward, and not another huge migration in like 2 years when some other new technology comes out that maybe is 10 times better, but is a large project, big migration. So I think those are aspects of picking what to work on top of the product muscle that we're all talking about here.
I feel like I just read a tweet from Charity about this. If you're migrating, going backwards, something similar to that, right, Charity?
If you're not migrating, you're dying. That's such a good point, Abby. I do like that. I think you can't just be better. You have to be asking people. You have to be offering something that's an order of magnitude better. I also think when it comes to tool choice, I realized when I was at Facebook that really good teams at big companies treat each other like vendors, and really good vendors at smaller companies treat each other like teams within the same large company. It's that same kind of like knowing your level of abstraction, but like feeling like you're on the same side, you have the same goals. There's a socio-technical, not making too many changes, not making them too disruptively, not making them without warning, making sure that your roadmaps are aligned. Like there's a lot of symmetry there, I think.
William, what's your experience with this?
I do agree with what Abby and Cherry just said. And on the point of changes, I think bringing in changes is not so well. Bringing in change is always disruptive, but you can be positively disruptive, of course. What I think is very important, you are predictable. So especially when you're working to others and you're presenting your platform as a product, you have to have clear roadmap, agreed feature within the roadmap, and you must be predictable in your changes. Like we all know what an API is, we all know the contract that an API builds, and we all know how to break that contract to bring in an important change into that API. We need to behave the same. There is a socio-technical aspect within platforms that we need to acknowledge and respect it. So we as humans don't like change, so that change needs to be predictable. We need to know when that change is going to happen, and we need to accept that it will bring in breakage, but it will also bring in innovation and easier working of the platform.
I think all of this really
and that's where you
go for it.
sorry,
Areti, go.
and that's where you have the benefit you have as a platform is that you have colleagues that are your end users, and it's much easier to find teams to say, okay, we're trying this out, would you like to try it out? And then you get a very fast feedback on the change. And then you say, okay, the order of magnitude is not what I expected. Then you say, maybe we need to add something before we go a bit broader. But it's much easier to find this feedback because you're working with people in your own organization. And I think that's one of the pluses on the product side of platforms. You have easy access to your end users, and you also have a different level of trust. You can trust each other. This is internal. So it's not, what are you selling me? So it gets a bit easier to build trust. And you need to be transparent with them in all cases. You can't sell it because they will find you at the coffee corner, right? You can't oversell because your customer is there. You will see you and say, where is it? It's a different relationship, I think.
You can't oversell, but selling isn't a bad word. Selling is connecting value with
overselling.
need. And I feel like too often as engineers, we're like, ooh, we don't do the dirty work of marketing and selling our work. But when you're a platform, you have to. It's part of the job because it's not just code. It's also connecting with needs.
Well,
But
and
not
also
overselling, then they go into the other ways, like, where is it? And they will find you. That's the difference. They know where you are.
But also developers constantly say that they don't do the whole sales and marketing thing, but then there's documentation, and that very much is them selling exactly what they just created, right?
It's a lie.
It's
right? Everybody hates bad sales and bad marketing.
Exactly.
We don't notice the good stuff because it's giving us what we need, and we're happy about it.
And I think this whole conversation really pulls together nicely because what we're talking about and is really a human aspect of being able to do anything in an organization, whether it's small or large, and the commonalities that people need to come across in order to make that happen. And that is kind of what platform is meant to do, is to pull that together to serve humans so that they can do their job more efficiently and happily and feel more productive, which I think is really the aspect that oftentimes gets left out when we're talking about tech in general is the fact that we should be servicing humans, and platform does a really great job of giving opportunities for people to talk to each other. But again, going back to if you build it, will they come? Obviously, if you haven't had those conversations with people to ask them what they're struggling with or what they need, it makes it really difficult to build a product for them. William,
when you talk about the people side of it and the like, will you build it and all that, I think that what you're talking about is that evolution of building something. And this is where I am going to bring in the team topologies idea, because people think about it in a really static way. But what I really wish people paid more attention to is the dynamic aspects of team topologies, that aspect that they advocate that you start with tight collaboration, because how else are you going to build empathy and awareness for what's going on? And how else are you going to leverage the skills across your organization to solve the problems at hand? But then they realize that to scale collaboration is difficult. You need to start moving towards facilitation, being able to scale that through maybe workshops or advocates or other things. And from there, you still hit barriers of scale because they're still based on what, like, human to human relationships. And only when you have that kind of clarity and that kind of scale need, now you should start automating it. And that's that X as a service model. And so I think right now we're all techies. We've all talked about that. We all like writing code. We all like solving problems. And so in the platform space, everybody's trying to write code. And in reality, a lot of what we could be doing is defining the needs and collecting those and making sure we're building the right thing, only codifying that service as and when we have clarity around it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that should probably be a big business driver in terms of trying to measure the success of a platform, right? William, I know you have some use cases that you want to talk to us about, your own experiences in working with people as they're trying to develop their platform. Why don't you kick us off there as we're coming to a close? Give us one of your battle stories from the trenches.
Oh, I can. Yeah, I can. All good stories start and end with a big failure, I think. I had one of these things, one of these examples of platforms that have been built left to right, where left is the platform engineers and product owners, and right is developers. I had a customers which I was helping building platforms, where a platform for us, it was as a service platform, right? So they were introducing features that they thought they were satisfying the users. Images, smaller images for the actual nodes, or security features that require the developers to actually code more. So those services, all those bits and pieces of the platform were being introduced without thinking of the developer. So this particular customer was it's a very large organization where there are different teams that are trying to build the ultimate platform um, where they actually there is competition within the platform engineering teams, or those that want to be the platform engineering team, to deliver to projects that are developing features for end users of the organization. So the platform eventually became something that was not much adopted by the developers because they were not getting any value out of the capabilities that were being introduced within the cycles. And like the underdog platform engineering team that was developing their own platform, trying to listen to the users and introducing like low-hanging fruits as capabilities, right? Like simply a service catalog, documentation for the services they were putting in, and there wasn't much, but they were putting in just what was needed by the developers. They had developers onboarding, they had developers using it, and they had the developers and the engineers talking about that platform. So being actually internal DevRel within the organization. So the big guys that were building the platform and had vendors support were not being used. The underdogs were the ones that started being the good ones, the platform that was being used. So this is it's a failure story. I see it as a positive thing, as a confirmation that you build with your developers in mind. But so somebody can also see it as a failure, as in, you know, a lot of money spent for something that's not being used and consumed. So
No, but
Peter,
it's a great takeaway and a good lesson. So on that note, we only got a couple of minutes left. Let's wrap up with pro tips for success. One pro tip per person. If you could tell your previous self before getting into this space, something to keep in mind, what would it be? I see everybody looking around.
I've got my microphone open.
You're
So
unmuted.
I
Go
guess,
for it, William.
yeah, exactly. I did say it also at my previous panel. Build your platform as you would as you are building a tool. So like you're building this, I don't know, Star Trek sonic screwdriver that can do almost everything. But remember that is a tool, and eventually a tool satisfied as a need to build something else. It's not the thing that you're building that is creating the value, but you're building something to create something that will create value.
Don't write too much code. Code is the enemy. The less code you have to write and maintain, the better. The worst code of all is the code that you have to write and maintain. Second worst code is code that someone else writes and you get to and someone else maintains. And best code of all is no code. Red diffs are the best diffs. But also a bonus one, don't forget that it's not enough to give engineers just enough tooling to run their services. You also have to give them enough tooling to understand their services, which can actually be much harder.
Oh, absolutely. Areti, go for it.
Be curious of what people are doing and why they're doing it the way they do. Before you start writing any code, be curious, look around, sit, talk, um, do everything to see what people are actually doing, not what they think they want to have, but how they actually do it today and why they do it like that, and try to find the solution to that problem rather than say, I will automate this part. Try to find out what they're doing today and why they do it the way they do, and then see maybe it can be removed. So try to be curious about what people are doing.
Yeah, remove it with that red diff. I'll add on to that and just say what you want is the thinnest possible platform, thinnest viable platform, if you've heard that phrase. And the way you do that is you focus on only delivering the things that are custom to your business. and leveraging where you can open source projects, proprietary tools, cloud providers, anything else that you can lean on, so that you don't need to be building the things that are available to you in the industry. So build the platform that's right for your business and leverage as much as you can outside of that.
Absolutely fantastic takeaways for everyone. Really good fight. Really good advice. I think we're just about up with time. Not sure if there are questions or not.
So we have lots of glowing comments about your talk, and I think, you know, as we wait to see if anybody has questions, please throw them in the chat. I wrote down a few quotes that I just really loved. The whole, you know, our customers are the developers. DevOps is not dead. You can't be experts in everything. You know, infrastructure, we need to think like product. And I love, Charity, your end, like, don't write too much code.
Yeah.
I'm just like some great quotes during that talk.
It's the best code. But also I love the way that Abby and Areti both talked about trust and building a relationship with the folks that you're developing this for and building it with. I think, William, at one point, I thought you were going to maybe talk about end-of-lifing platforms, and I'd love to know when you make that decision and how you do it. And then I have a question for Abby as well, and I'm not sure if you're going to talk about it in the next presentation, but I know in the past you've talked a lot about, you know, platform engineering versus platforms versus, like, what you know, there is a difference, and when do you actually build a platform and when do you need it? And it's when the security comes in, and if you want to talk about compliance, because I don't think I heard that come up yet. And so if you're not going to do that in your next talk, those are my two questions while we wait. William, when do you end the life of a platform? And Abby, how do we deal with like the compliance and security, and when do you actually build one?
I was trying to pass it on to Abby. When do you so you end of life a platform, you end of life anything when it the maintenance of that thing supersede its value. That's, I think we start from there. So an example is a customer I worked with. They had two platforms, one to satisfy the need of virtual machines, so virtual machine as a service, let's call it, and they had containers and all containers-based services on another platform. Did that virtual machine as a service needed to exist? Not really, but it was built. We managed to move those services created into the container platform-based platform, which also serving virtual machines over there, because for some reason there are legacy things that needed to be on virtual machines. But the subject, it's the need, maintaining and supporting, and the return of investment of a platform. It needs to be taken into account before dismissing it. Is that return of investment positive or negative? And that's ultimately how you dismiss anything really.
Awesome.
And I'm not going to talk too much about compliance in the next talk. So I'll just say, I think that it's important that that's what you're focusing on, is what your business needs from consistency across the engineering team. And often that's compliance. I sometimes make a joke that we're in the era of like the early 2000s software engineering organizations that are putting in, you know, beer fridges and pool tables to try and attract engineers. We're talking about DevX and developer experience from platforms, when in reality, what people want is to be able to do their jobs, to be able to go home and know that their stuff's going to run well, and it's not going to get them woken up at night, and that they can, you know, have autonomy. And I think that's the stuff that we as employees are now realizing we value from our companies more than the fun stuff. And I think that we're going to learn that platforms also need to be the things that do FinOps, Green Ops, you know, compliance and all those things as a priority, and developer experience comes naturally from that. So.
Well, thank you all of you for the super insightful panel. It was a pleasure having you all here.
Oh,
I'm gonna wrap up.
Yeah, I knew this was going to be, I don't know, one of my personal favorite talks of the day, just because of all the information that you all have to share. And people keep asking us if these are going to be recorded. So yes, these talks are all recorded, and you can go to the kubecrash.io website and click on past events to see all the past events. These should be up within the week. if you can't get enough of the information that these folks are giving you, their KubeCon talk is on the Platform Engineering Day is also available to restream, and you can watch that, and it's full of many of these great points and more. So this is what we do. We bring you the best talks and the best information here, where you don't even have to leave your living room.
All right. So thank you all. I'm gonna kick you all out. Abby, I'm gonna kick you back out, and then I'm gonna bring you back in. So
for dramatic effect.
Dramatic effect. That is absolutely why.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.